Welcome to the first episode, official episode really, of Revival Library. I did do another video where I kind of explained what this channel is about, and incidentally, I'm wearing the same exact outfit, so that was an accident, and I'm realizing this. But if you want me to wear the same exact hoodie in every single episode, vote below. Just tell me you want me to wear this hoodie. Anyways, to the point. So this channel is reviewing books and movies that have to do with church history, revival, movements like that, or just like reviews of books and movies about Christians or written by Christians. So it doesn't necessarily have to be revival like history, technically, but we're gonna go there a lot. Anyways, so first up, I'm kind of doing a joint review of books and movie, a book and a movie. It's the same title, and that is Jesus Revolution. I hope this isn't backwards for you, but it says Jesus Revolution. I watched the movie and loved it. We'll get into that. And I was walking around and I saw this book in a bookstore, and I was like, oh, I want to read this. I want to see like the differences. And then I was like, oh my gosh, a movie cover. If you are a book nerd like me, you might get that. Like, I don't want the movie cover. Like I had that with Lord of the Rings. But that's not very often that there's a Christian movie with a book that has the movie cover. It's very rare. And I don't know if there's an alternate cover. So, and I love the movie, so you know what? I'm fine with it. We did that. So let me get into it. We're going to start with the movie. I feel like more people at this point have probably seen the movie. I know a lot of my friends have. And so the movie, I loved it. Usually Christian films can kind of have a little bit of a cheese to it. And that was, I didn't feel that was the case to that. I did tear up. I didn't bawl, but tears came. It's funny because I was telling friends that like, I'm more likely to cry to a book than a movie, but they did get me. They got me. I just loved the setting. I just loved how real it got with some things in people's lives. No one was like made up to be perfect. They all had flaws, which is, it's kind of biographical. So if you research deeper, you find out more of kind of the stickiness and the flaws, which is just normal humanity. But I was just appreciative that they showed that and were real about it to some degree. And but also just that was happening in the midst of a move of God, because ultimately it was a move of God. And it's him moving among people. And so we can be messy. But I appreciated that. It was watching like Greg Laurie, which he was kind of like the focal point. There was kind of Kath and Chuck and Lonnie. They were also like kind of lead too, but at the core of it, it was like a Greg Laurie testimony story. Even when like Chuck and Lonnie meet, there's kind of like, they're talking about this generation, and it's giving little flashes of Greg's life and what he's doing currently. But yeah, it was just beautiful. It's just cool to learn about the Jesus Revolution. I've heard about it. And yeah, it might have started in the 70s in Southern California, but I've heard stories of it spreading all over. I've heard stories in the Midwest of like crazy barn meetings, and even have a book about that a little bit. Maybe I'll get into it one day. And so on this channel. And so, yeah, it's just really cool to like learn about it, but it was just beautiful. I felt God's presence just watching it, and it's a high recommendation. Of course, it's a movie, so they adapt a lot, and of course you don't know, you just believe everything for what it is watching the movie, but they definitely change things quite a bit. As I've read the book, I don't know why I did that, but the book kind of is more of the real story, and more real details. And so, yeah, so you kind of get to see the differences of like truth and fiction with the movie, but still as a message, the movie was phenomenal. I didn't have like too many like flaws against it. It was fun. The humor is fun, but also had like deep impacting, moments that just hit home. And just was beautiful cinematically and score and everything. So 10 out of 10 recommend for the movie, but I think the most interesting thing about this would be the contrast with the book, Jesus Revolution. It was an interesting read because you get to see the differences. It kind of like goes the same. It's as the movie with it just following. It's Greg's story. Like Greg is one of the writers. There's two writers. Another one is Ellen Bond. So I'm assuming that Ellen kind of like took Greg's story, interviewed him, and kind of compiled a book out of it. And it is a big history lesson too, because like it'll zoom out and zoom in between the chapters. Like it would be like this year, Greg's doing this, but also this is going on and this is going on, this war and this president and so you see a little bit of those moments in the movie, like the landing. They're all watching the landing on the moon and things like that. So the book kind of follows that, but more intensely. You get a lot more history lesson. And this year, this is all that's happening in the world. But then we zoom in to Greg's life. And in the same way that they're like, Greg is the more focal point, but you still get Chuck and you still get Lonnie and Kath. There are dedicated chapters to Lonnie and Chuck and Kath. Kath gets kind of too, and is more involved, obviously, because she's more directly involved into Greg's life. But you do get a history lesson on just Kath's life, which is really interesting because she wasn't actually, like, she was American, but she wasn't raised in America. And yeah, there's a different love story there than you see in the movie. It's like actually totally different. So I don't want to spoil things. I'm like trying to keep back from like, and this is the difference, and this is the difference. But if you want to read it, I don't want to do spoilers of like how their love story is really different. How they met to what it was like. I think kind of their on and off again was a little bit real, based on the book. Very similar in that regards, but yeah, it was just cool to learn, and it follows that time period in the book, but also fast forward, you get a little bit of even biography about Greg's life in his later years and some things that he went through as he was much older and had grown children who were out of the house and had their own families. So yeah, so definitely a time skip in the book, but he kind of links it to hardships he went through that created an own internal revolution for him and changed things for him, and it was kind of his own personal revival later in life too. And so you kind of follow a whole line of, obviously he's still alive currently. Lonnie and Chuck have passed away, and you get kind of their moments of his last moments with each of them as well. You hear about that as well. And so it's very interesting. It was an interesting read. I kind of, for me, wish that there was less of the historical things. For some people, I talked to one friend, and that was a bonus. But to me, I wish it like went into more detail about Greg's life, even as he was younger, because it was like, this happened, and it was just this moment, but it didn't, I feel like there could have been more detail in his earlier life, at least. He definitely goes into more detail into later moments in his life, and but still, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed finding the contrast and the similarities. There are like scenes in the movie that are from this book and play out pretty similarly, and so that was kind of cool to see the contrast of the real story and in the movie version. But yeah, I enjoyed reading it, and it's also cool just because you learn about things. Like he references other revivals. Like he talks about, near the end of the book, he talks about John Wesley and George Whitefield, and but there's one that I've never heard of, and this is what I love about like history. Is like I love, and part of the reason I'm doing this channel is because I love to discover more, like people I've never heard of, movements I've never heard of, and it's just really exciting to find out about. I'm going to share one, but I lost the page when I lifted the book and said books, so we're going to take a second to find it. But it was about a revival that I had never heard of. Yeah, Fulton Street Revival in 1857, led by a guy named Jeremiah Lanphier, I think. And basically he started prayer meetings, and at the beginning it was literally just him inviting people, and no one came, and so you just pray. but then 4 people came, and then 20 people came, and it grew. But yeah, I'd never heard of it at all. So if you've heard of it, don't judge me. But it's just cool because I love finding out those things, because then I'm going to look up this guy's name later, see if there's any books about him, or just the Fulton Street Revival and a movie, or because there's a lot of Amazon movies out there that I had never heard of, or movies on Amazon that you can rent that are like biographies of people I've never heard of. And so it's just exciting to learn about this stuff. So hopefully you follow this and follow this journey as I learn more and find out more about it. And I might have some guests, but every first and third Monday I'm going to be doing these videos, and on occasion you might see a video here or there, like a friend of mine is reading it, so maybe I'll force her to do a short review of it too, just to give a different opinion, and that might come out on a different day. Or I might do a Fiction Friday of fiction books that are kind of, by like C.S. Lewis, Narnia, or Bible Believers, just to promote that as well. And I have friends who wrote books, going to interview them. So if you like the video, please like it. Please subscribe if you get this. I know this is just the first video. I'm trying things out. I'm learning. I'm going to hopefully improve my crafts, but hopefully you enjoyed this video. I think the most interesting thing is the contrast. So I definitely 100% recommend going to see the movie. Like, it really impacted me more than the book, which is rare. The book definitely I favored, lean towards typically, but this time I really enjoyed the movie. But not everything is super factual and biographical in the movie, as I've learned through the book. So if you want to know about the differences and all about that, I do recommend the book. It is a good read. So yeah, if you want the difference, if you want to learn, just more about Greg's life and really Cass's life, there's some fun facts about her that weren't in the movie at all. I recommend both, but definitely the movie. Go watch it. It's exciting and fun and just powerful. It's been out for a minute, but I had to finish reading the book because I wanted to do a contrast. So maybe you've all seen it, but if you have other thoughts, if you've read the movie, or if you read the book or watched the movie and have other thoughts and opinions or things that I didn't hit on, I try to keep it spoiler free, but maybe I'll just go spoiler full in the future just to keep it more interesting. But comment those things below. Comment your thoughts below and I'll chat with you. But next video will come out in 2 weeks, and it is about Generals of the Faith in Uganda, which I went to this year. So you probably never heard of them if you're like me. So unless you're from Uganda, then awesome. But all right, peace. Have a good day. Be blessed.